we're gonna go ahead and talk about the Houzz Pro Clipper first. A great place to find where you're going to download and upload the Houzz Pro Clipper is going to be in Houzz Pro. When you go to the Help tab in Houzz Pro, go ahead and select the Help Center. Once the Help Center populates, you can go ahead and type in Clipper. You'll see several articles regarding the Houzz Pro Clipper, including how to download the Clipper. You will need to use your Chrome Web Store, but these videos are great because it will show you the steps on how to upload and download and utilize the Houzz Pro Clipper. Moving forward, we're going to figure it as if we have already downloaded and played with the Clipper a little bit because it's an amazing product that we can use through Houzz Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this Houzz Pro Clipper. Kind of rewind. I'll go back to here on my website. I hope a lot of you have already utilized the Clipper or have watched the articles or even gone onto your favorite sites and downloaded some items and uploaded some items. The Clipper is great for you to find products that you're going to utilize on current projects, future projects, or just to build your product and service library. So I'm going to say I'm looking for some furniture for my clients. We are looking for some accent chairs. So I'm going to go to accent chairs. I'm going to go ahead and scroll and find an accent chair that I'm thinking for maybe a future project or a current project. I'm going to go ahead and click into the product. On this right-hand side, you will see that there's options for pictures. To add pictures from the product, you'll simply place your cursor over the item and select the blue ivy icon on the upper right-hand side. Once you click that icon, it will appear in the pictures for your item. And you can add additional photos. So if you want a little bit closer of a photo or any of the pin photos that are on the left or that your vendor provides. So I want to go ahead and add this photo. So I'm going to click on it. Click on the blue ivy. And just a couple of photos. Just for reference that I have for myself or have, can keep on file. The great thing also with the IV Clipper is when you're in the item itself, to get the item description, the cost, the information regarding the product, you can actually just highlight the title of the item and it will automatically detect that you are highlighting something that you are wanting to add to your product. So this is the product title. So once I highlighted it, I'm going to go ahead and select product title. Now I see the price and I want to reference it for later. I want to make sure I keep it. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the price. And just like the title, I'm able to select where I want that information to be put for my products. If I'm going to have a markup, I can add the markup percentage right here. So I'm going to add 15% when showing my client this item. When I am adding the items, I can also select what category I want it in. So this is an accent chair. So I want to plan it and have it categorized as an accent chair. So I'm going to go ahead and select accent chair. But there are many categories that you can select from. But I'm choosing accent chairs. Project, if you had this in mind for a certain project that you've already started, you could go ahead and select a project that you have. But I'm just wanting to add it to my library of products and services for future use.
Katie,
Additional
there's a
information.
couple questions from the floor about Clipper and like troubleshooting.
Yes, certainly.
Uh, Jennifer wanted to know if there's are there workarounds for certain websites that don't allow the Clipper? And then
You can always try to you can try to screenshot your photos and then clip it, or you should be able to upload an image through. If you upload the image after clipping or screenshotting, you can upload that image, but then you would have to type the information in. It would not generate from the site.
great, thank you. And Brandy wanted to know about are there any workarounds for when the Clipper when you constantly have to log in and out of the Clipper? Are there workarounds there?
What I would recommend, we always suggest using Google Chrome, especially since you're using the Google Chrome web store for the clipper. You can always log out, clear your cache and cookies, and then log back in, or even sometimes you may need to remove the clipper and then reinstall it, and then it should allow you to stay logged in to utilize it on several sites throughout your workday. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. I want to add an additional, I want the description so I don't have to reference it back to the Crate and Barrel site. Again, it automatically picks up what I am scanning, that I'm scanning something for the clipper. So I'm going to go ahead and select vendor description. And again, you can include as much information as you would like on this for your reference, or you can just put this very little depending on what that item is. So I have all the information that I am wanting for this particular item. So once I am done, you want to make sure that you select Save to Houzz Pro. If you do not select Save to Houzz Pro, your item will not be saved. The good news is once you select save, it's going to tell you that you made a great choice and that it has saved and been added to your library. So make sure you see that to ensure that it has been saved to your library. So that was an item that we clipped. I'll go ahead and going to go ahead and just uh, clip one more item for our library. It's another accent chair. Again, we can highlight the product title. I'm going to save an image. This one, I'm just going to do one image. And again, it can tell if you accidentally do a couple lines, it will only want one line highlighted. And then again, that's all the information I'm going to save on this one. Just for a quick reference, I'm going to select Save to Houzz Pro. Okay, so now that we've clipped a few items, I'm going to go into Houzz Pro. To locate the items that you just clipped or have clipped in the past or moving forward, you're going to go ahead and go to your Manage tab on the upper left-hand side and select Products and Services. Here you will see all the items that you have saved through the Houzz Clipper. It's going to show the information that you added. So it shows the 2 chairs that we added, the cost, the category. We selected the category for one, but not for the other. It will show all that information. And if we were need to edit any information, say the price changed or we wanted to make an update to any of the information that we saved, we would just simply click on the item and then select edit. Here again is all that information, and we can make any changes that we are needing or wanting and select save. So now that we have some items clipped, we're going to go ahead and create a proposal for a client that we already have started a project for. So I'm going to go to my projects.
Before you move ahead, Katie,
Yeah.
there was 2 questions from the floor just to make sure everybody understands, like, fully how to use the clipper from
Oh,
scratch.
certainly. Yes.
The question was around where do you recommend putting the initial website price? Like, in the client-facing cost section and the vendor-facing MSRP section? Like, what's
It
best
that
for that stuff?
that would be up totally your preference. I know several pros, they do like doing it in cost because that's what you're going to pay for, um, the item. But that is completely up to your preference and up to your discretion on where you want to put that information.
Great. And what about categories that aren't used? Can you remove those, or do you just move past them?
You can just leave it blank. As you can see on some of them, I did add a category. On some of them, I did not add a category. Again, that's something that is up to you. You can add new categories. It's not needed. You'll see on the proposals and invoices that you can utilize a category section, and that's where it will come in play. But you can add a category or you can leave it empty if you wish.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. One last question, then you can move on to proposals.
Oh, certainly.
Great question from Tatiana. What percentage markup do most designers use? Is there a
I
industry
don't
best
believe
practice?
As far as I know, there's not one answer, just depending on what you're wanting to mark up. If you've had a discussion, with a vendor, if you're getting a discount and want to charge them a different price, or you have a standard, 15% markup. To be honest, it honestly varies from business to business. So it is up to your discretion on what you're wanting to make that markup to. Okay. So we're going to go ahead then and go into one of our projects. Projects tab can be located on the upper left-hand corner. We're going to go to the project Sanderson Family Home. So this is a new project that we started. Maybe it was from a lead that we got, but we have made it into a project. So what I'm going to show you is how to create a proposal without first creating a room planner, because I know you'll go through that tomorrow. So right now we're just in the overview of the project. You see the project name on the upper left-hand side, and then there's different parts of the planning process. So there's planning, project management, and finance. We are going to go ahead and select under planning because we're planning this project out for our clients. We're going to go ahead and go to the proposal. Once we select proposal, it's going to take you to a screen where if you already had a proposal for your client or any future proposals for this project, this is where that would live. But we're going to go ahead and create a new proposal for our client. So with that blue box, upper right-hand side, the blue box, we're going to go ahead and select the blue drop-down arrow. Here you'll see that you have the option to save it, start it from scratch, to upload from maybe you've uploaded some proposals from that had been previously created, or a template. So maybe you created a proposal already, saved it as a template, and are going to utilize it on this proposal. But we are right now going to go ahead and start a new proposal from scratch. It's going to be a brand new proposal for our clients. So when we go into a proposal, you'll first see that you do see your company name on the upper left-hand side. Then you'll see your client's name on the upper right-hand side. It will tell you that it is a proposal. Here you can actually change the name of the proposal. So if you wanted to change it, say we are doing a family room, there you can change the name. Anytime you see a little thin blue box around words or numbers, that's a sign that it can be changed or edited to what you're wanting to change it to. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to name it family room because we're making a family room for our client. It's going to show you the date that this was created. So we're going to go ahead and just leave it here. You can hide that if you would like, or if you want to show when it was created. So first it's going to ask us to add items. When adding items to our proposal, you can do it one of two ways. If you know the name of the item that you're wanting to add, you can click where it says add item and scroll through here. Here you kind of have to know the name. There's no image to see what you're adding. So I always like to add from my library. Here you'll see when you add or select from library, it's automatically going to default to project items. So when we were clipping those items, we had the opportunity to save to a project. If we would have selected a project, those items would have shown here for us to add to our proposal. But we want to search our whole product library. So we're going to go ahead and select the two hanging lamps that are just below project items. And here you're going to see your product library with any photos that you saved. I know for myself, I'm a visual person, so sometimes the name might not ring a bell to me, but seeing that image really does help. So we're going to go ahead, let's add that first couch or that first chair that we clipped. You'll see that it is added now to our proposal in the information. You'll see when we added that category, the category is showing here as the accent chair. And this is a family room, so we can go ahead and scroll through the things that we have added for our library to our products and services. Let's go ahead and just add this sofa. As you'll see, the sofa was saved in the sofa category. So the category is listed here as a part of the sofa category. So we're going to go ahead and start with those two items in our proposal. When looking at the proposal, you'll see that the status is currently pending because our proposal has not been yet approved or not approved. You'll see the quantity, the unit, the cost, and you can adjust the columns. You can also move the columns around if you're not happy with where they're at. So say you want unit before quantity. To move a column, you would just go ahead and hold where those 6 little dots are and scroll. So you can simply move the columns. If you're seeing columns that you don't want to see while working on this proposal, because this view here is what you're going to see when you're working on the proposal. So if you're wanting to adjust any information that you are needing to add, you don't want to see a certain column, you want to add an additional column, you can select settings. And once you select settings, it will allow you to turn on or off any column that you're not wanting to see. When it's blue, it's turned on. When it's grayed out, it is turned off. So I'm just going to kind of scroll and see if there's anything I need to add.
So there's a couple questions on settings and who can see what from the audience. What's the difference in retail price and cost? It sort of gets to settings here, and then is there a way to have the MSRP be the client price?
You can certainly. Cost typically will be labor plus material on a lot of things, but the cost is essentially what you're paying. The retail price you can put as well. You can put either one, and if you wanted to rename the cost column, if you didn't want to change it, you could also just simply rename it. But again, on this screen, this is the information that you're going to see while working on the proposal before sending it to the clients. If you can see on the markup column, you'll see that there is a little I crossed out. Only you're going to see the markup unless you want the client to see the markup. You can turn that on by selecting the 3 little dots in that column. But if you see that I crossed out and even put your cursor over it, it's going to tell you that it's only visible to you, just so that you have reference of what your markup is.
And what about trade discounts? Can you do that by item, or do you have to do that at the vendor level?
That it can be up to you. Again, this is just what you're proposing to your clients.
Okay.
If you're providing them a discount, you can add a line item or adjust the price, but this is simply just the proposal for what you're proposing to your clients to move forward with your project.
One last question on cost.
Yeah.
Just so everyone's clear, is that the cost to the designer or the cost to the client?
It would be the cost to what you're paying, because you have your markup. So if you are paying that $2,300, you're marking it up. So from that one item, you're making, depending on how much your markup is, a certain percent or a certain dollar amount. In the markup, you can adjust it to either be percent or dollar. So if say you want to make X amount from a certain item, you can put the dollar amount, or you can leave it just as a percentage on top of the item. And then here on the sofa, we didn't put a price in. So here's the opportunity to enter that price. By entering the price here, it does not save in your products and services. It only simply saves on this document. So it will not be saved in your library, but we now have a price here for the item. Again, also markup was not added, but it can be done by either a dollar amount or a percentage. So we'll say for this, we want just a straight dollar amount. And again, the markup is not visible to the client. It is only visible to us while we work on our proposal. The next is our shipping. Make that a little bit bigger. So our shipping cost just needs to be entered. Again, this is something only visible to us. So we'll say it's $600 to ship. We need to enter the price now for the shipping of the sofa. If you wanted to add a shipping markup, we're going to go ahead and add no markup to the shipping today. The next is the tax column. So here, if you are needing to tax both item and the shipping, you can select both. Or if you're just needing to tax the item, you can select just item. So here we're just going to go ahead and tax the item for the client. We're going to scroll down. Here we'll see that we do have our subtotal area showing us the markup for the items, as well if we would have had a shipping markup. the total for the shipping, and then our total for this current proposal. When we scroll down, here we will see that there is the opportunity to set up a payment schedule. It will automatically default to 70/30, so a 30% deposit and 70 upon completion. Just how we renamed the proposal name. When we put our cursor over, say, the name, the date, we can make adjustments when we see that little thin blue line around that part of information. If we need to schedule an additional payment, we can select an additional payment here and it will be added. And you can select schedule a payment for however many payments that you're wanting your client to pay for you on that proposal. You will want to set up a payment schedule before sending to the client because when they do approve the items itself, they're also approving the payment schedule and need to be aware of what that payment schedule is. Here we'll also be able to log a payment. So if our client paid us the deposit, we can log that payment here. We'll get into that in just a moment. Continuing to scroll on the proposal, you'll see here a file section. So if you're wanting to add any additional photos or files for your client to view, that can be added here. Our next box is our terms and conditions. If you wanted to add this to your proposal and invoice or any documents that you have, you can go ahead and add it one time and then it will post on future documents. You would just want to go ahead and select My Templates. We're going to go ahead and create a new one. So our title is Terms. And then you can add in, copy and paste if you have it set up somewhere else. But we're just going to have a nice day. Go ahead and select Save and Add. And then we can go back to that templates, highlight it. When you see those three little dots, we can select the three little dots. And we're going to set as a project default. So we want it to say in all our proposals for them to have a nice day. And let's add it to our invoices as well. Go ahead and it will be saved there. So on any items that we send to the client, any proposal or invoice, that template will automatically default in the terms and conditions portion of the document. Memo, if you wanted to add any additional memo, you can do the same with your templates. You can add a standard memo that you would like for your clients to view. That can be done also in My Templates. For this instance, we're going to go ahead and scroll back on up. So now that we've created this proposal, we've looked at it, we like the items that we've provided, we are happy with how it looks. You can also, if you wanted to change it and have the sofa first. Oops.
Before we move ahead off of proposals, there's a few more questions on MSRP and discounts.
Okay.
Let me go through markup. Specifically, is that off of MSRP or is the markup off of the internal cost to the designer?
That can be either. A lot of times they'll do it off what they're paying. They'll add an additional amount, either a dollar amount or percentage to move forward. Some vary. It can be 15%, 10%, 20%. It's completely up to your discretion on how much of a markup. Either, again, on here you can add either a percentage
can you
or
show
a
us
straight dollar amount.
Got it. Okay.
So when you're in that markup column for the item, again, just place your cursor, and then you can go ahead. Once you select the little drop down arrow, you have the automatically will appear that you can either select a fixed amount, so straight $500 for the sofa that we did, or for the chair, we did just a straight 15%. So it's up to you if you want to add just a straight dollar amount or a percentage.
Great. Yes, Tanya, you can change the dates, dollar amount, target. Okay, I think we addressed Emily's question. Is there a way to remove shipping costs from the proposal?
You can. Again, you can adjust it in settings.
Got it. Okay.
or you can zero it out. But right now, only we're seeing that setting of the shipping. So
Mhm.
currently, only us, the company, is knowing what we're going to charge the client for the shipping.
Got it. Um, can someone take out the payment schedule if they use payments outside of Houzz or some payments some other way? Like, can you take out the Pay Now button?
It will always default on proposals. You can remove both of them. We do recommend keeping it simply so your client knows. They can pay you outside of Houzz Pro, and we will go through on how to log a payment. If a payment is logged, it can be removed. If it's made through Houzz Pro, it cannot be removed. But setting up online payments is great for your clients to pay. It is easy for them. They can receive the document and make a payment from there.
Okay, I can answer that with myself. A library question: how to change the price to an item in the? Pardon me, I'm reading too fast. Christine wants to know, how do you change the price in the library so that you don't have to make a duplicate item? Can you just change the price in the library itself?
You could go to the library first and make the adjustment, and then add it to your proposal or invoice. If there was not a price when we added it to our proposal or invoice, it would not save. So you can always go to your library. Again, that would be just under the Manage tab, and then Products and Services, and you could edit the price there for future documents.
Mhm. I think I know the answer to this one, but I don't want to speak out of turn. Amy wants to know if you can turn an invoice back into a proposal.
No, you can open up a proposal, and we'll go through that on how to open up um, a proposal once you need to make any edits. But once you have invoiced it, you cannot have that item go back to a proposal.
Got it. Okay. I think the other ones I can answer myself. So let's keep moving because I know there's a lot of ground to cover.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select preview. Once we select preview, this is the view that our clients are going to see. So here you can customize it to show as much information as you would like or as little information as you would like by simply going to customize what your client sees. And here you can go ahead and select, again, as much information that you're wanting them to see. You can select the columns that you're wanting them to see. You don't want to show as much information, you can show them there. And one other thing, I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and go back to that editable version. Right now, you see the items broken down by category. If you didn't want to break the items down by category, you can select Group By and then None. And then it will just be the two items. And again, if you wanted to move any items, you can go ahead and just click right next to the item, the plus sign, and move it. Now, if we go back to preview, you can customize what you want your clients to see. You can show as little information as you would like or as much information as you would like. You can set how you want your clients to approve the proposal. So you can actually have them approve it per line item or just an electronic signature to move forward. So we're going to go ahead and allow them to approve per line item. So they can say yes to the sofa, no to the sofa, same with the accent chairs. Then we would send it to our client. Once you hit send, it will default to the on-file email address as well as your email address. And you can also change the message that you would like to send to your client. If you have a standard message that you want to send to them, you can save it as a template so you don't have to enter it each time. And then you can send it to the client. You can also copy the link. If you're maybe sending them another email, you can copy the link of the proposal and send it to the client. So I'm going to go back to the proposal. Since I don't have a client to send it to, I'm going to go ahead and approve it on their behalf. So I'm going to go ahead and select More Actions. And I'm going to select Approve per line item because I want to go ahead and select one item and not the other. So to approve it, I'm simply going to go ahead and select the blue check. To decline the item, I'm going to go ahead and select the red X. Once that has been made, I'm going to go ahead and save it. Once that item has been declined, you'll see that the pricing did change. The total has changed. So now that we have one approved item, say the client came to you and said that they changed their mind. The item that they declined, they would actually like to approve. You can do that by going to More Actions and selecting Reopening for Editing. Once you select to reopen an approved proposal, you'll get a warning message that you will need to reapprove the items. So you're going to go ahead and select Confirm. So now both items are back into pending, and we're going to go ahead and select More Actions. And the client wants a both, so we're going to go ahead and approve the whole proposal. You'll see the status now shows as approved. Now that our proposal has been approved, we can also either do one of two things. We can create a purchase order from our proposal, or we can wait until we invoice the client. So we have our 2 items that have been approved. Now that they've been approved, we are actually going to go ahead and create an invoice. In order for a proposal to go from a proposal to an invoice, it must be approved. So we're going to go ahead and select Create Invoice. Now you'll see that everything that was on that proposal did move over to our invoice. It will show that it was a linked document to that former proposal, but now any changes are going to be done on this proposal or invoice rather. So we have our items. We say our client has made us a payment to us. We're going to go ahead and log payment number 1 by selecting Log Payment. Again, you can log a payment if a client pays you via cash, check, credit card, Venmo, Zelle, if it was outside of Houzz Pro. If they pay you through Houzz Pro, it will automatically log the payment towards the correct document. But we're going to say that this client paid us via check. It will automatically show us the dates. And in the reference number, I know a lot of pros, if they get paid by check, they'll put the check number. Go ahead and save that. So now it will show that that was paid. So we have received one payment from our client. If you need to send them a receipt, you can send them a receipt from here. And if you were needing to delete the payment, you could delete the payment here. Again, it can be deleted because you logged it, so it is a payment that can be removed. So we have one payment towards our invoice, but now we need to order our items for our client. We see that it's been partially paid. We're going to go ahead and order the chair first. So we're going to go ahead and select the item. We can go up to More Actions and create purchase order. Here it's going to, since we selected the item, it will appear here and we can select the vendor. So our vendor is Crate and Barrel. And then we're going to go ahead and select Create Purchase Order. This view is very similar to the proposal as well as the invoice. Again, you'll see your company information in the center. Now you will see that vendor that you will be sending it to, as well as your client's information. This is the information. Again, the cost is showing how much you're paying for it, the shipping, and you can send this depending on what vendor it is that you are using. Purchase orders are truly for you to keep order and organized of what the items have ordered and have been ordered from your project. So you can send it if it is a company that you do send purchase orders to via email, you can send it to them. Or if it is a large corporation or an online order, you can simply keep it just to keep record of what you have purchased for your project and for your clients for your records. And here you can also change the status. So whether you're waiting for a quote, you've ordered it, it's on back order, it's en route, you can add that information through the status of as that order progresses for that item.
Okay, there's a question about invoicing and templates.
Oh, certainly.
So Jenna mentioned that she's been using Houzz Pro for quite a while, that when she invoices current or existing clients, it's the old invoicing template. But when she uses new clients, it defaults to a different format. Is there a way to just have one format?
So currently, there is a previous version of Houzz Pro and a current version of Houzz Pro. It is updated. Any projects that are in the current or in the previous experience of Houzz Pro, those will remain as is. Any new projects will appear in this new formats, which is the future of Houzz Pro, and it's an amazing way to invoice and send proposals to your clients. So we have our, going back to our invoice, um, you may have a client who may provide you, who maybe doesn't want to be sent every invoice to make a payment. They just want to give you one sum of amount of money for your discretion to use, whether it's per a proposal or an invoice. And they can pay you what we call a retainer, where they go ahead and pay you a sum of money for you to use at your discretion to apply towards invoices. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our overview of the project. So again, you'll see the company name, or I'm sorry, the project name on the upper left-hand side. You'll scroll down to the retainers and credits. So to receive a retainer from a client, we would need to create a new retainer. And again, just like the proposal, you can name it in the invoice. So retainer for family room. The item name, again, the retainer item rather, we'll go ahead and do family room retainer. Again, this is just for them to see information on the amount that you want them to pay. And we're going to say that they're going to go ahead and give us 15,000 or 16,000 rather. Now that we are providing this retainer to our client, they will pay us this sum, and then we can use at our discretion if we want to apply it towards an invoice or a proposal. So at the bottom again, we'll see that you can, if you needed to add an additional payment, you could add an additional payment. But they're going to go ahead and just pay us one time. And let's say they paid us via check again. And we'll go ahead and put that check number. Now that $16,000 is available to us to use towards an invoice or proposal. And we actually have an outstanding balance on our invoice. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the project overview. We're going to go ahead and scroll to invoices. We're going to go ahead and open that invoice. And any invoices here for the project will live. So we're going to scroll down. And we see that we have a balance still of that $3,428.92. We're going to go ahead and log a payment. It will automatically can detect that we have a retainer for this project. So we do want to apply that retainer. So we're going to go ahead and put that amount in. That will then come from that retainer that we had for the client. So now this invoice has been fully paid and is paid in full, and you will see that balance as 0. So now that we have our items, we have ordered one item, and we have these 2 items that we have paid from our clients, we can go ahead and go to, again, the overview of the project. And we can select our project tracker to see how our project is doing. So you will see that for this leather chair, we created both a PO and an invoice for the item. So it's showing us our status is that it already has a purchase order connected to it. It's still showing that sofa because we have an invoice for it. We haven't created a purchase order quite yet for it, but it is there, a part of the project. And you can scroll. And just like any document, you can edit what you want shown and not shown on this by selecting these 3 little lines. You can customize the table by turning on or off the different things that you're wanting to see. Blue again means turned on. When it's grayed out, it is turned off. And the great thing with this project tracker, you can filter it how you would like. You can also export it to Excel if you're using and utilizing Excel. You can create an FFE schedule via PDF, or you can create tear sheets. And when you download it towards a PDF, it would just come up with your downloads, and then you can send it to your clients, or keep on record if you want to print out. You can have all that information in your project tracker. Another great thing, if you charge your clients for your time, is in Houzz Pro, there are time and expenses. So when you select time and expenses, it will initially show, clock, your rate, but here you could add your time entries for your time. You can also add any additional expenses. So maybe you are charging your client for mileage or any added expenses. You can utilize time and expenses. But first, we're going to go ahead and add some time. We're going to go ahead and select a new entry because we're going to be charging our clients. For those that have team members, your team members will all show here as well as the admin. So we actually have, we're going to have our team member. His service was the design fee. So he went to the client's house and a design fee. His rate will automatically default. You will have to enter it in the first time, but after that it will default, and you can adjust that rate. Again, if it's taxable, you can add that there. We're going to say that he had 3 hours. Any description, met with client at their home. If you needed to download any files, you could do so here, but then we're going to go ahead and save this. We will now see that we have a time entry that we can then create an invoice for, but say we have a couple of time entries. So we're going to go ahead and add an additional time entry. But this time, maybe I went as the admin for my company, so I'm going to add that there. I have a designer rate as well that automatically defaults. But I went on a different day. We'll say we went on the 4th. And we'll go ahead. It's there for hours as well. So you have this here for your time, that you can submit to make sure that when you are working, that you are truly charging your clients for all time worked. So now we have 2 entries here, but we need to, add an expense in for our mileage. So we're gonna go ahead and go to expenses. We're gonna go ahead and create new entry. Let's do our mileage first for our team member, Michael. He doesn't have mileage in, so we're gonna go ahead and add in mileage. Once I've typed in my new entry, or expense entry, I'm gonna go ahead and type it in and then select what it is. The cost, we'll say it's an even 140. Quantity, whatever the quantity may be. And it says mileage for his visit. So now that we have these entries, we need to bill our client for these items. We can go ahead and bill all time that has been entered as well as any expense. But actually, we forgot a time, so we're going to go ahead and select time. And there's also the great thing about Houzz Pro, there is a stopwatch. So if you're utilizing it, maybe your clients came to you or you're utilizing a laptop, you can utilize the stopwatch in the upper right-hand corner to clock your time. So you can clock in, it can go, let it go forever how long, and then clock out. So now we have that one-time entry here. So now this is all our time and expenses, but we are working within that Sanderson project. So we're going to go ahead and go to projects again. We'll go to our time and expenses. So now we have 3 time entries and an expense that we need to charge our clients for. We can create one invoice from these 4 items by selecting the item. So now it will show on the upper right-hand side, create invoice, and it will show how many items that we have selected. We'll go ahead and select create invoice. And now an invoice has been created with both our mileage expense as well as our designer fees for our time for the client. And then you can move ahead and if you want them to pay in full, if you want to schedule an additional payment, you can do that just as if you did for any merchandise that you charged your client for.
There's a question from the floor about retainers, since we're talking about finances and payments here. Jacob wants to know if you're recording, if you have a retainer on a project and you have it recorded, do you have to use that retainer in your invoices?
No, you can use it either towards an invoice or a proposal.
Okay.
At your discretion. A retainer, I always kind of refer it as, it's almost like not a gift card, but a card that has those funds on it for you to use at your discretion. So you don't necessarily have to send every invoice to your client, or if they've already told you what they approve on a proposal, you can then use it for payment for those documents.
Great. Okay. One last question about finances. It's about invoices. If you issue an invoice and then open it back up to edit, can you change the date on it?
The date created, will always stay the same. That can't be edited. I can certainly pass that feedback on. You can hide it, but it cannot be changed. Once it's been created, that date does stay the same.
Understood. Thanks.
My pleasure. So that is great. Also, I know a lot of you are always very busy and utilize either your iPad or your iPhone, Android. Please keep in mind that when we went over the Houzz Pro Clipper, that is only available while on a desktop. As of right now, that is not available via an iPad or a digital phone or a mobile phone. You would want to utilize either your laptop or a desktop for clipping items. But the Houzz Pro app is also an amazing feature and function to use. You can utilize the stopwatch from the Houzz Pro app. So if you are on the road, you're visiting your clients, you're working out on the fields, you can utilize the stopwatch in the Houzz Pro app. You can create invoices. You can create proposals. You can do you can't quite do everything yet what you can do on a desktop, but you can do a lot of things on the Houzz Pro app. You can utilize it. I know you'll go over 3D floor plans, but you can utilize it to scan rooms for your 3D floor plan. And again, you can create different documents for your clients while out in the fields. Were there any other questions?
There's a whole bunch. Let's see. Cher wants to know about, once you created an invoice but you forgot a time entry, can you go back and add that in later?
If you can, so that we'll go back to that invoice that we had for our time.
Mm-hmm. Can you put it into a different invoice, for example?
You could. It wouldn't necessarily be a time entry, but you would add it as an item, and you would just have to, hand key it in. So designer rate. We'll pull it up, and then you can add. We're creating a new item. It read it as a new item. It was a service, so we'll tell. We have our designer fee. You would just need to know the amount, so we'll say $500. Creating a new item, then it added to our invoice that we have already. Once you select to create an invoice from those entries, once you've selected it, you can't go back and reselect. You would have to either create a new invoice or add it to add an additional line item.
Got it. The only other questions here are around retainers and signatures. Can you collect a signature on a retainer as if they're like signing to give you a deposit?
Currently, a retainer would not require a signature. The only thing that would require a signature is if you were asking your clients to sign onto a proposal because they're approving it. With the retainer, you are more or less asking them for the funds, sending it to them, and then they are paying you.
Hmm. Got it. Okay.
It's
And you
kind of
can,
like they're paying ahead for, they're giving you a lump sum to use at your discretion during the project time.
right. So that lump sum can include time, product, expenses, anything you need to spend it on.
Correct, yeah, so you can utilize it when you create an invoice for your expenses. You can utilize that as a form of payment towards that invoice, but retainers can be put towards both proposals and invoices.
Great. Okay. Thanks. Keep moving.
And just like, I apologize, but when we're speaking about proposals, I apologize. If you ever wanted to create tear sheets, and I think I may have already invoiced it, so you can also create tear sheets from the project tracker as well as from the proposal. So when you go to more actions, you can go ahead and select a tear sheet with pricing or a tear sheet without pricing. And if say this was a document that you feel that you'll be using a lot for your client or future projects, you can always save it as a template to reference back to and use on another project with this proposal.
Got it. And you can change the formatting here, however you'd like.
When you mean formatting, you can just change where the columns are located.
Hmm.
As far as, changing the font, currently not, or changing the layout, it would still be the same layout.
Great. I think that was Barbara's question from half an hour ago. Thank you.
Anything else? I think, did we get all the topics?
Let me do one quick sweep through it. I was
I
answering.
apologize.
No, it's all good.
And I know I spoke to at the beginning of the presentation. When you log into Houzz Pro, there is the Help tab. The Help Center has uh, many articles about everything on Houzz Pro, as well as there's video tutorials. So if you ever, can't find an answer, you can always look there. You can contact support, but I definitely recommend utilizing the Help Center. There's tutorials. It has a wealth of information for you to use.
The only other question here was there was a few questions from the floor about grouping items together in a proposal,
Okay.
like a custom lamp that you're going to get built. It's got a few different parts. It's got the lamp, it's got the shade, it's got the stand, it's got the cords and the electronic parts. How do you group that all together? And then what about in the images? Where do the images show up?
So the images, it will automatically default to what you chose as like kind of your cover photo for the item. You can select edit if you're not liking that image and select another image that you had utilized while clipping. So you can change that. You can have it if it's say a lamp and you want all one charge for the lamp. You could have it as your title, the Tiffany lamp, and then under the description include all what it's a part of it. In the description, you can put what it's a part of it, or you can even put where you're thinking of placing the item. So maybe in the family room by television, or wherever you're, wanting to provide that information to your clients.
Great, we can keep moving.
And again, when you're in the invoice, then you can have it by category. Say you're wanting to add an additional item, you can select from your library. Again, it will automatically default if you saved items for the project. We're going to go to our library. Let's go ahead and add another accent chair. Then that item automatically will add to it. You see that it's not linked to an additional item. So there's no approval. You're just adding it to your invoice. And you'll see that the prices automatically update. an additional payment is there. But because we took that proposal from a proposal to an invoice, any changes or additions would be added to the invoice.
And when you're issuing invoices, do you make a default for your payment terms, or do you do it in the template? Like, do you do it at the individual invoice level, or are you doing it at the template level?
So when you save it, save a default, you would not save it in the templates. You would select, typically it would be set as a default, would be located right here, and it would default for other documents within the project, other invoices. But we did not save it as, we did not default the settings for it. So we have our payment schedule here for our clients to view. Once they make, so we say we had one more payment, we're going to go ahead and apply that last part of our retainer. And if you see we still have to type it out, it won't detect the amount because it just wants to confirm the amount that you're wanting to apply. So now we have our invoice has been paid in full. If you'll see, we have our terms there because we saved it to make sure that our terms and conditions would apply to proposals and invoices for the project. Another great thing about our documents at the very beginning, or at the very end rather, you'll see an activity stream. So it'll tell us every step of the document when we apply to payments, when we created the invoice from a proposal. It gives us the whole history, for say, of that document. Again, it shows us there's 2 linked documents because we have a purchase order connected as well as an estimate or proposal. Is there any other questions? I think everything was touched on for the day.
There's one more clarification from Brandy about adjusting the defaults for every project. So there's no like global account settings for your payment terms or your payment schedule. You have to adjust the default for every client.
Correct. I can certainly pass that feedback on, but currently it would have to be adjusted.
Amanda, you asked about the grouping features and proposals. We're working on that for Q4. Deb wants to know, if you copy the link, does it show up in the activity stream as sent to the client?
It will show, so where it would say, if we sent it to the client, when you preview and send it, it would show in this area that it would say sent, and it would actually also say in the activity stream that it was sent with the date. Oh, I apologize, that not quite yet, but it would say sent up here, and if you hovered on it, it would show the date. So it'd be another separate blue box that would say sent, showing that you've sent it to the client.
Mm-hmm. Deb wanted to know, if you delete an item from an invoice, where does that item go that you deleted? Does it go back into the proposal?
So if you delete an item, it just is removed. It wouldn't go back to a proposal. It just would be removed from the document.
Great. Okay, so it goes away.
Correct.
Understood. Okay.
And again, if you needed to make any edits to any items that you had clipped or in your products, you would just go to the Manage tab, Products. Because again, if you're saving it in a document, it will not save in your library. You would have to go to your product library and you would click on it, select Edit. So we notice the price, say, went up to $2,000. We're going to leave the markup at 15%. And we'll go ahead and save it. And now moving forward, when we utilize the Wells Renew Begin Chair, that new price will populate.
Michelle had a bunch of good questions that I missed 20 minutes ago. I apologize. Receipts and assigning. So is there a way to assign an invoice or a PO to a team member so they can take care of it?
You wouldn't be able to assign a specific document. You can assign a project. So you would want to go to that project. And on the right-hand side, you can then select from your team members if you want them. A list will appear and you would just click on them. You would just want to make sure that your team member, that you've made sure that your team member has the permissions to access it. And to go to team member permissions, it would be through the settings tab. You'd select your profile picture, settings, team members on the left-hand side, and then go ahead and select edit. And then you can go ahead and select as many permissions of what you want your team members to access. So if you want them to have access to certain projects but not other projects, you would do that here. And then general permissions, you want to make sure if you want them to be able to access invoices and estimates or proposals, that they have that selected.
Great. Okay. And what about receipts? Where do those show up?
Receipts for
is there a way
setting
to
your
see a receipt if, like, when the homeowner pays, or when an invoice gets issued?
So when you send, when a client makes a payments, you can, when you log that payment, after you log it, if you place your cursor over that payment that you're maybe wanting to send a receipt for, you can go ahead and select your cursor over that payment, select the three dots on the very far right hand side, and you have the option to either send the receipt or to delete the payment. So when you send a receipt, it will give you the email address and you could select it and the client will receive it via email.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you. One more question from Michelle. We'll just do all of hers. Is there a way to apply a paid proposal to a retainer instead of an invoice?
So you can apply the retainer to the proposal. So if you're wanting to use that as a form of payment, you could, but the retainer would be a separate document where the client would pay you and then you would use those funds to disperse it towards a proposal or an invoice within the same project.
Got it. So they are separate. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, it would have to be a separate document. And the retainer that they pay you is only good for that project. So if you have the same client, but 3 different projects, you would have to have 3 separate retainers within each project because the retainer within that project is only good for documents within that project.
Great. We had one last question on time entries from Cher.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can go back while you go back to that part. I'll sort of summarize the questions. For a newly entered time entry in an invoice that hasn't been sent, you can't take a new time entry and add it to an already active invoice. Correct?
Correct. It would have to be a separate new invoice. So we've already invoiced these 3 entries and it will remind us that we have invoiced it. If we create a new entry, so we'll do it again for our team member design services. That new entry appears. It shows that it has not been invoiced yet. We would have to create a new invoice with that entry.
Okay. And then if you think about an in-process invoice, you add a new time entry manually directly into that in-process invoice. Does it automatically get transferred over to the rest of the time entries?
No, it would then just be a separate item on that invoice.
Great. Okay.
The time entry will only appear in the time and expense section if you utilize new entry or the stopwatch. And the stopwatch, again, can be utilized both here on the desktop or if you're utilizing the Houzz Pro app.
Great. Question from Ashley about running profit and loss reports. Is there a good payment report that you recommend for seeing profit and loss?
We do have several payments or financial reports through Houzz Pro. For financial reports, you would go to Manage and then Financial Reports. And you can utilize to see your payments. You can see your sales tax liability, and then you can also see your incoming and outcoming. It'd be more or less just what you are looking for in regards to your reporting. Any financial, I would recommend asking and talking to an accountant or your bookkeeper, as they would be the ones who would have the most knowledge on that information.
Great. Okay. Sounds good. I think that's it. The rest of them I can answer myself offline. One last question from Emily. Can you create a proposal or an invoice from a room board?
You will go over it tomorrow from a room planner.
Yes.
You can. I know that's some information you're going to go over tomorrow. But from a room planner, you can create a proposal. Mood board, you cannot. The mood board, kind of like to. It's kind of like Pinterest. You're showing your ideas visually to your client, so you can't necessarily create a proposal. You can't create a proposal from a mood board, but I know you will be going over room planner, and you can create proposals from room planners.
Got it. Okay. Sounds good. But thank you so much for your questions, guys. It's been great. I always learn something about the product when I help host these things. And thank you so much to Katie for answering all of our very detailed questions.
Thank you. I hope I was able to shed some more insight on Houzz Pro and enjoy using it. It's a great tool for you and your business.